Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce, and I am joined here with one of my besties, Emmy from Holistic Genie. This is round two, believe it or not, of us filming this, which I always think God works in mysterious ways. So maybe there was a reason why we had to halt filming this yesterday to refilm it today. But because of the subject matter that Emmy is going to be presenting today, which I think is just so unbelievably fascinating and so true, we are going to have to do this full episode over on Rumble. Now, with that being said, Amy and I were just speaking about this. The topic that we are going to be talking about, you can find information on this topic on YouTube. However, Emmy and I are hunted women. So we, of course, get hit with things that other people don't get hit for. So that's okay. That's okay. The controllers are just showing us that we're on the right track. So we are going to be rather be safe than sorry and just put this stuff over on a platform where we can speak openly and honestly. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of times people have problems finding the link from YouTube over to Rumble. I'm going to show you guys once again quickly how to do this. Now, if it would save you some time and energy if you just go ahead to Rumble and just subscribe to Esoteric Atlanta on Rumble. You have a backup channel on Rumble as well, right, Emmy?
I do, but I haven't been putting anything on Rumble. I'm probably gonna risk it and put this on my channel.
Okay. Yeah,
but I do.
I'm hunted.
You are. I'm so sorry.
Okay. It's all right. It's fine. It's actually, I take it as a compliment because I'm like, I must be getting something right for them to try to strike me this much. But you guys, so if you're watching from my channel, go ahead and subscribe to the Rumble backup channel, and then go ahead and find Emmy on Rumble too, and just subscribe to her anyway, because we don't know what's going to happen, and just so you have that subscription in case this platform something happens, you'll be able to find Emmy as well. So if you are on my channel, go ahead, you're going to see, so I went ahead and pulled up my video from, I believe this was on Friday, of controlled opposition. And this was something I did with Catherine Edwards, where again, we had to put the content on on Rumble. So this was the opening. So you guys, the description box is the box that is directly under the video, this little gray box. Now I'm on my laptop. If you're on your phone, it might look a little bit different, but just know, for starters, the full description box where all this information can be found is directly under the video before the comment section. Okay, now with the description box, the way that YouTube has set it up, this is a YouTube platform. It's not how I set it up or Emmy set it up. This is how YouTube set it up. In order to see the full description box, you have to hit the show more button. So the link, you cannot see the link right now, right? It's because the full box is not being shown. You have to hit this show more button in order to pull the full link up. And you will see at the bottom right here, I have that says to watch the full episode. And there's the link right there that you click, and it takes you directly over to my channel, directly to the episode. It's always there, guys. I know I had a few comments. It's not in the box. Yes, it is. It's right here. It's always here. You just have to, so I'm gonna hit show less again. You just have to hit the show more button. I can't do that for you. Emmy can't do that for you. It's literally just clicking that button on your laptop or your cell phone. Sometimes the cell phones or the iPads don't say show more. It's just got like a down arrow. Whatever button you have on your description box that indicates you can blow the description box up, that's what you want to hit in order to find the link. Now, if that is still confusing to you, and I'm saying this in a very, very loving way, because I suck at technology too. If I didn't have someone helping me, I would never have a video upload to YouTube. If you still don't understand, if you're still having problems, ask a child in your life, right? And make the mother,
Yeah.
right? They know what to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this change was recent because I was a little frustrated with it myself. And watching other people's videos, like if they do a podcast with someone and I want to go check out this new person, and I was just like, what the fuck? It took me a minute to figure it out too, but yeah, they changed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
there. You just, and again, if this is confusing, that's okay. Just go ask your kid to do it and they'll be able to show you how to do it. So, that's just, and I've had some people say that they're having problems getting Rumble to play. Unfortunately, Rumble is a newer platform. And from what I understand, it's one of the platforms that's absolutely going to be sticking around once everything happens. Now, with that being said, I understand that my laptop's very old. It won't play Rumble. So I have to watch Rumble videos from my cell phone. So if you are one of those people that is having problems getting Rumble to play on your device, try using another device or try restarting your computer. Like that's always my answer. Have you turned it off and turned it back on again to see if it works? So all these things, if you're having issues, I promise you from my end, I've done all I can do to get you the episode. It's all coming from your end. You're going to have to either have somebody help you with the description box, pulling it up, or if you're having a Rumble issue, again, use another platform or restart your computer and see if that helps. So, all right, you guys, with that being said, if now comes the time, the test of time, the big test. Join us over on Rumble. So hit the description box, the show more button, hit the link and follow us over to Rumble, or go ahead and subscribe to the Rumble page so you just get the notification anyway on Rumble and you don't even have to mess with YouTube when I post videos to Rumble. All right, you guys, we will see you over there. Okay, Emmy, now that we're here on Rumble, let's begin. Now, I titled this The Conspiracy of German New Medicine. And what you have to know is conspiracies aren't always that bad, because I absolutely am thrilled that you're going to be speaking about this topic today, because this is so freaking fascinating. And I think it just kind of it resonated so much with you, and it resonated so much with me when you told me about this, because there's truth to it, and it also kind of backs. It's a Western doctor who figured out a law of nature that actually mirrors everything in spirituality that we've been taught. So I'm going to let Emmy take it over from there. So take it away, girl.
Okay. So German New Medicine, I mean, it's not a conspiracy once you look into it. These are actual biological laws. And let's just quickly go over the definition of a biological law and a theory. So in Western medicine, traditional medicine, most care, and maybe even all their care, is based on theory, like germ theory. Cancer is treated very piecemeal.
No, for really quickly, Emmy, no, I am familiar with germ theory. I know most of our viewers are familiar with what germ theory is, but just for people who are really not aware, can you just give like a layman's Cliff Notes version of what germ theory is so people kind of understand? Because I
Okay.
think they'll recognize it once you start talking. This is what our medical world is basically basing everything off of, is these theories.
Okay. Right. So germ theory is basically the theory that if you come in contact with a germ, you're going to get sick. And we see that in real life all the time, that's not the case. People are exposed to different bacteria and viruses and they don't ever get sick. Some people do, some people don't. So it's just a theory. It's not a law, because it doesn't happen 100% of the time. It doesn't happen across the board. So it's a theory that people get sick from or get diseases from germs, or basically bacteria, viruses, fungus that is in the air, on our food, and other people. The theory is that those things cause disease and make us sick.
So this germ theory is what made people go crazy during the COVID-19 lockdown.
Yeah. Yep. So it can never be made into a law, because it is not true across the board. A biological law, is true in every single case. And with German New Medicine, this brilliant doctor, Dr. Hamar, he was a German traditional medical doctor, and he discovered through the process of going through these things himself, he discovered these 5 biological laws. So I'll just briefly give the story of what happened. So, and this was back in the 70s and 80s. So, this has been around for a long time, but we don't hear about it. And the reason why we don't hear about it is because the Western model of medicine is not about health. It's about money. It's a business. It's a business. So, they make billions of dollars a year on basically making people sick and then getting you on their pharmaceutical roller coaster. It's not about treating disease. It's not about healing illness. It's not about health. It's about money. It's a business. It's excellent for trauma care, for surgeries, for, interventive medicine. It's excellent for that. So the Western medicine is really important for a certain set of things. But as far as like health and wellness, Western medicine is not where you want to go for that. So brief description of the story. So Dr. Hamar, German doctor, traditional medicine, in 1979, he tragically lost his 17-year-old son. He was shot and killed. And this shock, this trauma, 3 months later, Dr. Hamar discovered he had testicular cancer. And he was very healthy, exercised, ate right, very healthy young doctor. He had an idea that his cancer was caused by the unexpected trauma that he suffered. And so, because he was already in medical practice, he had ample people to start asking questions. And he had access to medical equipment like the CT scan. And what he discovered through asking questions and confirming with CT scans, he found that every case of cancer, and this is true for every person, it's true across the board, it's a law. Every cancer was caused by some type of traumatic event, some type of unexpected traumatic event. And so let me just pull up. There are five biological laws. I'm just going to give a brief overview. There is so much to this. There is such a huge body of work. And I'm going to share with you a YouTube channel. She's a chiropractor. Her name is Dr. Melissa Sell. She has very good tutorial videos on her YouTube channel. I highly recommend, if you guys are interested in this, if this resonates with you, to go educate yourself. What we're talking about today is just a very brief overview. It's like just an introduction. So let me show you some pictures just to give a visual as I talk. Okay. So the first biological law is that when a person has a sudden event that catches them by surprise, all at the same time, the psyche, the brain, and the organs involved, all at the same time, at the moment of this crisis, there is a biological program that is set in motion. And what's really interesting is that it's which part of the brain is activated and which biological program is activated completely depends on how the person perceives the event. So two people can go through the same event, but based on how the person is perceiving the event will determine which part of the brain is affected and which biological program is initiated. Okay.
I mean, that sounds like the law of karma, doesn't it? Like the law of karma. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have this event, how you perceive the situation is based on, wow, Mercury retrograde sucks. Like I can't do this to this, every time.
FYI, guys, we're at Mercury retrograde again.
Yeah.
I meant to start the video off by saying that, but
Yeah.
Mercury
Yeah.
retrograde, right?
Plus I'm super excited. And when I get excited, I like stumble over my words. Okay. So let me use an example. And I'm going to use myself as an example because I was going through and thinking over my life, like, okay, where have I had this type of stuff happen? Okay. So 2018, on my birthday, my father-in-law suddenly passed away. Okay. 3 months later, I had issues with my breasts and my uterus. I had a lump in my breast and I had really horrible, painful periods. What was discovered was that the lining of my uterus, the uterine wall got really, really thick. And then I had this like mass in my breast, went through all this scary shit. Like they put me in contact with an oncologist, like they did really invasive like biopsies and just all this stuff, right? And they gave me a diagnosis. They said, I had adenomyosis, but I'm really questioning if I actually had that because this is why. So I perceived this event as a loss, like a loss of a family member. And this can happen to a woman at any age. She doesn't have to be of childbearing age. So if you lose, it can even happen with an animal, like you lose a pet, you lose a child, you lose a loved one. The part of the brain that is affected is the brainstem. Okay, so there was an actual shock wave. If I were to have had a CT scan at the time of right around that event, there would have shown a set of concentric rings somewhere in my brainstem that showed the shock of that experience. Okay, so the brainstem was affected. So I perceived this as a loss that affects the brainstem. So this biological program was activated, and this is based on evolution so that we can survive and become stronger. Okay, so there was a loss. So the brainstem is connected to the oldest tissues in the body, which is the reproductive organs, right? So during the conflict phase, which is the experience of the trauma, when the biological program is activated, it will start this cell proliferation, which is growing cells. So there were cells growing in my breast, there were cells growing in my uterus. And the point of that is to make it a more favorable environment for a child, for new life. See how the evolutionary principles are coming into play here? Like your body is so smart. It's so smart. Okay. So this is the first biological law. This is what happens. I'm going to go to another picture. Let me change this picture. And can you see that? Did it change?
Yes, it
Okay.
did. Sorry, I was muted there. I was saying yes.
Okay. So when this event happens and the brain is triggered, they call this a significant biological special program. Okay, so that's the second law. So these biological special programs are activated, and then let me look at my pictures here. Excuse me. No. Here we go. Here's the third one. So you either have, depending on which part of the brain is activated, you either have cell loss or cell proliferation. Because of the shock that I had and the biological program that was activated, I had cell proliferation, which means the cells were growing in my breasts and in my uterus. So once the conflict is resolved, meaning once you process the grief of the loss, or once you downgrade it from really shocking to like not so shocking, like you're downgrading your perception of it, that marks the end of the conflict phase, and then you enter the healing phase. And the healing phase is when you start to feel symptoms. Okay, so this is when we think that we're sick. We think that something is wrong with us, that we need medicine or we need an intervention or whatever. We're having symptoms. Like I felt the lump in my breast. I was having really painful periods. So I was like, something's wrong. I need to go get checked out. And this is where Western medicine interrupts the healing process by cutting out parts of our bodies, cutting out these cancers, which is actually like a scab, because my breasts were making changes from this shock that I experienced. It was running the biological special program. The cells in my breast and my uterus were making all kinds of changes. The conflict got resolved, and now I'm in the healing phase, having these symptoms, right? If I would have left everything alone, then the second part of the healing phase, like, okay, so when you're not feeling well, you have swelling, you have pain. This is all part of the healing process, but we're not taught that. We don't feel good in this part of the healing process. Let me see if I can. Here we go. This is the not feeling so good of the healing phase. All healing takes place in a fluid environment. So these areas of your body have to swell in order to have that fluid, in order for it to heal. So you're not feeling good, you think something's wrong, you go to the doctor, you get on medication, or, God forbid you have a tumor and they diagnose you with an aggressive cancer and you're going through chemotherapy and you're having parts of your body removed, when really all your body was doing was working through a biological program. And this is part of the healing phase. But because we don't understand this, we think something's wrong. So if this would have been left alone, if I wouldn't have had any interventive care, once this part of the healing phase is over, then your brain will activate bacteria and fungus to go in and break down the tumors that are no longer needed. The tumor's like a scab. It's like a scab in the healing process. So then these bacteria and fungus come in to break down the tumors or other growths that are formed in these particular tissues. And then that particular tissue is left stronger. Like when you break a bone and it heals, that bone is the strongest bone in your body. So these biological programs are intended to make our bodies stronger as we go through these shocking conflicts. And this can be, I'm using cancer as the big one because that's where we interrupt care the most, that we have a very hyper vigilant interventive care in this country when it comes to cancer, early detection.
I mean, that's what's so interesting, because even if you think about, like, let's talk about working out for an example. What happens when you work out? Your muscles tear apart
Mhm.
to be rebuilt. That's when you're sore, is they get stronger because they've been ripped apart by the exercise. And so if your body's able to do that through physical practice, then it's also repeating the same pattern for emotional stress, since we know that the body is the shakti of the soul, it's the expression of the soul. And I'm seeing here that we have a fever, and I've talked about this so much with, like, the yoga fever. When you get low grade fevers during your yoga practice, you're not supposed to medicate it. You're supposed to allow it to run its course, because your body is in the process of burning up old patterns, old stuff that you don't need anymore. And if you interrupt that, if you stop that by taking something to lessen the fever, it's not going to go anywhere, right? It's just going to cause confusion in the body. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah. Um, okay, so we're in the healing phase. There's a second part of the healing phase right here. This is where you're feeling good, you're feeling better. Like you've had the symptoms, there is another part of this healing phase called the epileptoid crisis. Let me find it right here. Okay. So in between the two healing phases, you have the first phase where you're having symptoms, you're having swelling, you're having pain and discomfort. You might discover a lump somewhere in your body. You know, this is the symptomatic phase of it. Then once that part of the healing phase has completed, you'll have this epileptoid crisis because the body has to rid itself of all of the fluid that it used to have the environment for healing. So, you know, there's going to be some slight swelling in the brain and at the area that was affected by the conflict shock. So, you know, during the epileptoid crisis, you can have like a really bad headache. It's got to squeeze that fluid out of the area. You could also have like muscle spasms and cramps. You could have like vomiting, any kind of activity that is like a rapid expelling or squeezing of the fluid. And sometimes, depending on the conflict and how long you were in the conflict phase, the epileptoid crisis can be pretty severe. Like it can be like a heart attack or a seizure. So it's very important as you're learning this German new medicine to get in contact with, if you have a rather large crisis or shock, to get with somebody. Don't just do nothing. Don't just do nothing, because, you know, we want these biological programs to play out in our bodies, but we also want to support ourselves during these difficult times. And you know, healing can be really difficult. So definitely take advantage of Western medicine when it's needed, So we go through this epileptoid crisis. There's some kind of something that happens that feels, you know, really severe, nasty migraine headache, horrible, you know, stomach cramps, depending on what part of the body is being affected. And those severe cramps that I was having when I went through mine, let's go back to my example. That was my uterus getting ready to expel all of the extra fluid that it had in there while it was healing. And I, you know, thinking that something was wrong, went to the doctor and interrupted the healing process. So when you get on pharmaceuticals or when you have surgery, you're basically telling your body that it is okay, like it's already healed, but the healing didn't actually complete. So you interrupt the healing process. So sometime later on, when the conflict is resolved, you're going to go through that healing process.
Oh my God, Emmy, can we pause here for a second to talk about what I've talked, I don't know if I talked about this on YouTube, but I've talked about it in the yoga group. Do you remember what I told you guys about women who have cesarean sections?
Yes, you'll complete the birth process at some point.
So, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, and I absolutely agree with Emmy 100%. Western medicine does have its place in an emergency situation. In an emergent, like if your appendix is about to rupture, you're gonna have to have it removed or it will kill you. I've had my appendix out. Now, if you're in a situation where you need to have a cesarean section, if it is serious and it's going to affect you or the baby, then you absolutely go have that cesarean section, right? But because the woman's body did not get to complete the process of childbirth with the cesarean section, what tends to happen, and we know this as yoga teachers, it could be 30 years later and there could be a posture that triggers the uterus, and all of a sudden the woman will go back into labor again so the body can complete the process of the childbirth. And if that happens to you, if you're on a yoga mat and you that happens to you, don't stop it. Let it play out because your body wants to complete that process. And when you were first telling me about this, I mean, that's what I kept. So we're seeing this in the Eastern medicine. We're seeing this concept of allowing the body. We see it with the ASEA products, right? The ASEA products supports the body to allow the body to do what the body knows how to do what it's going to do, like heal itself, right? So I wanted to pause on that because that's a big one. And I know, Emmy, you've had cesarean sections, correct?
My last one. Yeah, my last one. And there was a point during my yoga practice about 3 or 4 months into it, where I had like a 12-day period, which is like 3 times as long. And it was, you know, the cramps were really intense. And I was like, my mind went right to that. I was like, I wonder if I am finishing the birth process from my last child. And I mean, just the emotions and everything. It was really interesting. It was
Super
really
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, so if you're a woman who's had a cesarean section and you notice with any type of exercise or healing, you started to have that experience again, that could be what it is. If it hasn't happened for you yet and you did have a cesarean section, just know that it might happen. And if it does, great. Let your body do what it needs to do because that's what your body's designed to do. And you're not wrong for having a cesarean section. I want to be very clear about that. Cesarean sections absolutely are necessary sometimes in order to save your life and the baby's life. But what you're not being told is that your body needs to finish that process too. So,
Mhm.
anyway, I'll
Okay.
hand it back to you, girl.
Okay. Um, so let's see. So we talked about the first law, which is, let's just revamp real quick. So the first biological law is that an event happens, it affects the psyche, the brain, and the organs involved simultaneously. And the second law is that a significant biological special program is activated based on how the person perceives the event. So that is very, very important. It's all about perception. It's how you perceive something. And then, boy, I wish I tried to put these pictures in order, but yeah, no. Okay, so third biological law. I don't think we got to that one yet, did we? Embryology. That's okay.
No, we
So
haven't done the third one yet.
third biological law. Okay, so it's like the compass. So I talked a little bit about the conflict phase and the two parts of the resolution phase, the healing phase. Now I'm just very briefly overviewing this. I really highly recommend you guys go check out Dr. Melissa Sell. And also I'm going to link the website for the actual German new medicine tutorials. That is so much information. However, I find the teacher, the presenter, she has a very thick German accent, and hard, I have a hard time. Like I have to slow the speed down of the video so I can understand. So anyway,
Is it on YouTube? Is her lessons on YouTube, Emmy?
Dr. Melissa Sell, the chiropractor, her
German
stuff is
girl.
on YouTube, but the actual German new medicine website is all on a website.
Oh,
It's all
okay.
of
So
their
there's like no
tutorials.
closed captioning.
Yeah, all of their tutorials are on the website. You can play them right from the website. Okay, so we've got conflict phase, healing phase, and then the third, okay, so yes, the third biological law. Let me find the embryology, because this is really fascinating. So this is the third law. The third law says that whatever part of the brain is affected, the corresponding tissues are affected according to what was formed during the embryonic stage of growth and development. So there is basically three types of brain tissue. There's the oldest part of the brain, which is like often referred to as the hindbrain, the reptilian brain. Then you've got a little bit newer, which is the midbrain, and then the forebrain, which is basically makes us human, distinguishes us apart from animals. That's the newest tissues formed through evolution, right? So based on what part of the brain is affected, it will affect those tissues that correspond to the germ layer that was formed in embryology. So like, for example, going back to the example I used of myself, I had a loss conflict, and that affects the brainstem, which is the oldest part of the brain. The oldest part of the brain is connected to the oldest types of tissue in the body, which is the reproductive organs. We have to be able to continue life. So those are the types of tissues that are affected when we have a loss conflict. It's just absolutely fascinating, isn't it? It's just like, I just get so excited talking about this stuff. It just makes so much more sense. Our bodies are so intelligent, you guys are so intelligent. And Dr. Hammer found these laws true in every single human being he studied. And to take it farther, animal species were studied with CT scans in their brain. Every single animal species studied has these biological programs. Like, it is in our DNA. Like, how smart is that? How brilliant is that? And I'm just going to use this little example here. In westernized countries and cultures like the United States, we have an extremely high cancer rate. Okay. If you go to these undeveloped countries and look at their cancer rates, it's almost nothing. And the reason why is because there is no interventive care. They don't interrupt the healing process. Like, we get cancer all the time. We get cancer all the time in our body, and we're just not aware of it. And so our body goes through the healing process. We're not aware that we are developing cancers and healing cancers all the time.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because I come from a family. First of all, I come from a family of Western doctors. Second of all, I come from a family where every freaking person has died of cancer, right? And they've all gone the Western route of dying of cancer, right? Which is a brutal, brutal death. And when I was a little kid, I remember making my mind up as a little kid that I wasn't going to get cancer. Just a little kid. I just made my mind up, not going to happen. Now, with that being said, I literally don't get pap smears. I will not go get a mammogram. And this was before I had made these decisions, before I knew the depravity of Western medicine to its full extent. And I'm not saying that all doctors are bad, we're programmed, right? But I feel like I intuitively kind of knew not to mess with it. Just kind of intuitively. Now, I do go to the doctor for like my ear issues when I have to have an emergency ear thing done, but that's all just needs to be handled. Emmy knows more about that because she has the same issues I do. So, there are things I did have my appendix taken out when I had and all that kind of stuff, but I will not go get a pap smear. I won't do it. I will not get a mammogram. I won't do it. And do you remember, Emmy, when we were kids, what's the hepaloma? Is it the HPV, the hepaloma virus that they talk all about now, about this cancer? But
Yeah.
when we were kids, that didn't exist. But now it's like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if how many times do you think you and I have our bodies have developed something like that and then healed itself without us even knowing, Emmy?
Well, probably all the time. All of these bacterias that we think that we're told are what is causing disease are actually a very, very important part of the healing process. They're not causing, it's like basically Melissa Sell in one of her videos, she basically says it's like saying that, oh my gosh, freaking mercury. I can't even think of this example. I don't know, but basically saying that part of the healing process is what's causing disease is absolutely asinine. But we don't know that. That's not what we're taught. And so, these fungus and these bacteria have such a beautiful, special role in our bodies, which is why it's so important to like make fermented foods and eat fermented foods. We need a continuous flow of these bacteria. And, there's lots and lots of probiotics you can take in pill form, but really the best way to get probiotics is to make them yourself, especially with locally grown to your area, locally grown organic produce. And because it has everything from your particular area where you live. And so these pollens and everything that, like honey, like if you take honey in your local area, if you have really bad allergies, same thing. The bees collect all of this pollen from your area. And if you take a teaspoon of honey every day, you're going to build an immunity to these pollens. It's like the same thing with growing your own bacteria on fermented veggies. You take the locally grown produce, has all of the bacteria, from your area, and you're growing healthy bacteria for your body. So that you have, because another thing that's an issue with this, I'm going to stop share, so I'll come back to it. Another thing with Now I forgot what I was going to say. Son of a gun.
Well, while you're remembering that, what you're saying in me is in Ayurveda as well. Like Ayurvedic medicine says the same things. You have to be alkaline to your area of the world. So, and
Mhm.
I've said this before to my students here because I live in the middle of a city. Now, I say this jokingly because I live in the middle of a city. I cannot be as pure as my environment or purer than my environment. So for those who live in a city, guess what that means you get to do? You get to have a beer and greasy pizza every now and again because
Hey, yeah.
you need to be
Mhm.
able to match. Now, if I lived up in the North Georgia mountains where it's very pure, it's very nature, there I could be a full on like purist if I wanted to because I need to match my environment. And
Yeah.
something they say in our in the East as well, big in Ayurveda and yoga, and they also talk about this. I believe the Cassiopeans also speak about this. Viruses are necessary. Or are you getting sick, I should say, rather, is necessary. You cannot spiritually evolve without sicknesses, without what we perceive as being sicknesses. That's how your body evolves. That's how
'Cause
you move up in consciousness too. And I know for my grandfather and a lot of my family members who are doctors, even though they're Western doctors, are very against things like antibacterial soaps. Like I
Mhm.
remember when antibacterial soaps became a big thing, and all of my family members were like, absolutely not. Do not
Mhm.
buy this soap. This is going to kill you. Do not. My grandfather used to tell my mother, because I was the first grandchild, he'd be like, go outside, let her eat dirt. Let her eat dirt. Let
we
her,
need we need the microbes.
we need
And
it.
speaking of that, that's what I was gonna say. Because of all the antibiotics and antibacterial, like everything, these bacteria and these funguses that are needed in the healing phase to break down these growths and these tumors after that particular phase of the healing is done, because we have so many antibiotics and antibacterial products, we don't have a good supply of the bacteria for your brain to use in this breakdown process. So, it's just so important to make fermented foods, to eat them on a daily basis. I cannot stress enough. Fermented foods is what healed my gut. I tried so many things over, a few years time. And what healed my gut was the probiotics that I make on my own counter. And it's really easy. It's really easy. There's so many videos out there on how to do it. It's so easy. Um, and what's really interesting too is the fear component. So let me pull this back up here. So in when we are in the healing phase and we're having symptoms and we go in and we think there's a problem, um and we interrupt this process, boy, I really wish that I could have like a flow like I normally do. Like my thoughts are just constantly interrupted. So sorry about that, bear with
You're
me.
sounding great, girl. Don't even worry. You're
Okay,
sounding
yeah,
great.
it's so irritating. um the fear, thank you. Okay. So when we have these symptoms and we go in and we're like, something's wrong with me, and say you have a lump in your breast like I did, and they give you a diagnosis of cancer. Okay. That is another conflict shock. You have a death fright. That's a death fright. That affects another part of the brain. And then it's the fear. It's the energy and the vibration and the frequency of fear that causes the cancer in your body, which is there to help you heal. It's the fear that makes it grow out of control and kill you. It's not the cancer, it's the fear. It's the fear. It's just so incredibly fascinating. Like when we interrupt the healing process and we cause another conflict shock and we fill a person with fear, and this cancer, which is there as a band-aid or a scab, not a band-aid, but a scab, the cancer is there as a scab. It's part of the healing process. And it's just completely interrupted and intervented, and a person is filled with fear, and it just gets out of control, and then we die. It's just really, really fascinating
And it's
how.
you look back at history, Emmy, even like, I mean, we don't know truly what our history is at this point, but like no one was dying of cancer in the 1600s.
Right.
Now, poisoning, no, I'm just kidding. They were being murdered and poisoned, but like cancer wasn't, that this is like a modern thing that we've created. And you're right, fear is false evidence appearing real. So if you've been given a cancer diagnosis, you are presented with false evidence that appears real to you, and so your body's responding to that perception, as Emmy was saying in the beginning, of things being real, which perception is, there's no such thing as reality, it's all perception. And I said that with the law of karma, because the law of karma is the law of cause and effect. Now, karma is just cause and effect. That's all it is. Something could happen to me. The same action could happen to me and happen to Emmy. I could perceive that action as being kind of comical, not so bad, but Emmy could perceive that action as being detrimental. So physically, my body's going to react differently to my perception as Emmy, right? So and then that perception of emotion attached to the action is what then creates your friction for your own personal laws of karma, your own personal journey. And so I thought that's what I think is really fascinating, is this is literally a Western doctor figuring out Eastern science that's been around since the beginning of time. That's what's so interesting, to have it spoken about in a Western dialogue,
Yes,
right?
and with proof.
Hmm.
He's got the brain scans, like tens of thousands of them from the people that he worked with.
Yep.
He's got the proof. Like it happens in every single case. And so this brings us to the fourth biological law,
Well,
which
before
is
we
what.
get, I want before that, let me say this too, because I want to, because Jimmy Emmy was saying that with germ theory, there's this the case that like if a cold's going to spread, like everyone's going to get this cold. And I want to bring that back to karma too, because there's three categories of karma. There's your own personal karma from your life and past lives. There's your inherited karma. So if you're sitting there at home saying, "Well, my mom had breast cancer, my grandmother had breast cancer. How is this something that's not like not like a genetical thing?" No, it is, in the sense that it's inherited karma. It's an inherited trauma that you have the opportunity to fulfill the healing process of that trauma. I hope that makes sense. But there's also, with the whole germ theory thing, what we call is collective karma. And so sometimes when like a stomach virus goes around, or like the chicken pox when I was a kid went around, it was a collective karmic healing. I hope that makes sense how I'm saying that. But so everything Emmy is saying is fitting into these Eastern, what people would say, kind of woo woo laws of existence. It all fits, and it's called the karmic law, right? It's not the karmic theory, is it?
Right, right.
Everything has, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's karma, right?
Mhm.
You did
Yes.
you drank water, therefore you have to go pee. You're not free from karma. Karma is nature. That is the laws of nature. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up before we went any further, so people, because I get to see questions in people's head with like inherited karma, collective karma, and I want to say no, there's an explanation for all of this energetically. All right, girl, take it away with the fourth biological law here.
Okay. Yeah, that was the perfect place to interject that piece of wisdom there, because the question is, well, what about colds? What about the flu? Not everybody gets it, but a lot of people do. And that's exactly it. It's a collective karma thing. And going through like a cold or a flu is the healing process from a very minor conflict, like somebody said something mean to you, or you're dealing with difficult people, that kind of stuff. There is like a collective karma there that's going on that people will heal from all at the same time. And it looks like we're getting people sick, but that's not what's happening, because if germ theory were real, everyone would get sick, and not everyone gets sick. And that has been the case the entire time.
And I want to say too, because I know people are going to ask about the seasonal stuff, like seasonal flu, seasonal colds. Well, if you look at the laws of nature, which is your laws, which is the law of your body, if you go deeper into Ayurvedic, there's different time periods in the year and the seasons that trigger certain healings, if we want to call it that, to take place. Not sicknesses, we'll say healings. So there is a season where more people are going to be susceptible to getting the flu or the cold, or have the, we'll say, the opportunity to get the flu or the cold to heal, because the season, the element of the earth around you, is allowing that opportunity to happen. But with that being said, the flu can really happen at any point during the year. The cold can
Mhm.
really happen at any point during the year, but there are particular energetic blocks of time that allow for, and I'm not even going to call it sickness, I'm going to call it healing, that allow for the opportunities of healing to happen if they need to happen. And your energetic body knows this. Your brain doesn't know it, because your brain's been programmed to believe a falsity, but your energetic body does. So I hope, yeah, and you're right. I mean, things like, I'm laughing, I had myself muted, I was laughing as you were saying that, because like COVID was such a big deal when literally COVID was just the flu. And look at all of these people getting COVID, and they're going through a healing, really, they're going through a healing process, whatever COVID is, it's the flu, really, so yeah. So anyway, take it away, girl.
Okay. So the fourth biological law is what I was talking about when the brain programs bacteria and fungus to come in and um, break down the excess tissue that was produced and created these tumors or growths or cancers. And she calls them seasonal workers. They get their instructions from the brain. That's why we can have these bacteria and viruses in our body and they're just dormant. Well, they're dormant because they're not needed. When they're needed, the brain activates them per the biological program that was initiated at the time of the conflict shock. And so it's just so beautiful and brilliant how our bodies work. And depending on which part of the brain, the endoderm is the oldest, the mesoderm is the midbrain, and the ectoderm is the newest part of the brain. So fungi is what are activated and brought in to break down any kind of tumor or tissue that was activated in an organ from the endoderm being activated in your brain. Bacteria is the mesoderm, viruses, and they say if they exist, because there is no picture with an electron microscope of an individual virus. All pictures we have of viruses are what is they're doing in the body. Like you can't have there is no picture of a virus separate from something going on in a body, either animal or human. And so there is no concrete proof that viruses exist. We believe that they do because of what we see happening in the body, but there is no picture of any virus isolated from what it does in a body. There is no, we have pictures of bacteria, but not viruses. And, so that's just really interesting to me how they were able to use the ignorance of the population of the world to push all of the COVID stuff, saying that they isolated it and all of that. They didn't. There is no such thing.
And it
So,
wasn't it actually a German doctor that offered like $1 million for
oh, he's
anyone?
still doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
they've got
they can't.
what is it called? The Nuremberg 2.0 lawsuits and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, they can't.
yeah.
Yeah, and that, but we see how they, because it's crazy. I mean, as you're saying this, like I'm thinking about, we've been taught like when the body gets sick, you got to allow the immune system to like get the virus out. But it's actually complete opposite. The body is allowing what we perceive as sickness to happen so it can, you're right, healing. If you think about emotional healing, just going through trauma therapy emotionally, it's hell on earth. There's weeping, there's crying, there's purging of emotion. Well, the body is the Shakti's expression of the soul, so it's going to do the same thing. on a physical level when you're healing as well. And so this is just making so much, it literally, you're right. I mean, it just makes sense. Like this makes so much more sense than the
Hmm.
bullshit we've been fed. And we've also been fed this idea with Western medicine that the body, what happens to your body is just, your genetics. That's it. Like there's no emotional, there's a separation between mind and body, but we're learning more and more from the Eastern side that no, again, the body's the expression of the soul. It has everything to do. And I will say too, I mean, Emmy, like one of my last trips from India, I can't remember if it was my exact last trip or the anyway, I got really, really sick when I was there. And I had been with my friend Mark Garreau, who is in Ohio. He's a teacher. He's one of my really good friends. And we were pulling dogs out of gutters. We brought like 6 dogs back with us. And we were pulling these dogs out of these deep gutters. Now, in India, it's common for people to use the restroom outside. And so when you're pulling dogs out of gutters, you're wiping your mouth, you're covered in dirt. I ended up getting what they called a really bad, like, infection virus from human feces. I was extremely sick. Like I was in Indian hospital. My temperature got really high. When I flew back, I had to put it on credit card, go back business class so I could actually lay down the whole time because I was so, so, so sick. And thinking about it now, I know I had never been that sick in my life. Like my boyfriend at the time wanted to like fly to India to be with me because he thought I was going to die. Like that's how sick I was at that point. I'd never been that sick in my life. My fever was so high, I was crying. I was in so much pain. Well, I know I had a huge spiritual experience after that happened. I had a huge spiritual breakthrough after that sickness happened, and it took about 6 months. And the doctor here in America told me that I would have bouts of like throwing up. Like I'd be fine, and all of a sudden I have to go throw up. Like it would take a while to work through my system. I didn't go on any medication in India. By the time I got back to America, they wanted to give me medication, but I was already through the worst of it. So I'm very funny about medication anyway. But even before all this hoopla happened with the world shutting down. And looking back as you're talking about this whole situation that happened with me, my friend Mark, who was in and out of the gutters with me, in the same environment, wiping his mouth too in the same gutters, didn't get sick. Nothing happened to him. Nothing. And I literally, so this explained, there was something I believe very spiritual about that needed to happen to me to purge, do a huge purging of whatever patterns needed to be purged. So I just wanted to bring that up. So even in a situation like that, I just thought for a long time he was the lucky one. He must have not wiped his hand in poo, but no, he probably did because we were literally in the same gutter. How
Hmm.
could he not?
Right.
Handing dogs back and forth to each other, right? Like how could he not? But I had something I needed to heal, significantly needed to heal in order to have a breakthrough. And he obviously didn't have that same type of healing needed.
Right. Yeah. That's so fascinating. Um, so there is another conflict that happens quite frequently to people, that will affect the musculoskeletal system. And that is self-devaluation. So I'm just going to use this as another example. Like if you go through any type of abuse, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, psychological, it's classified as a self-devaluation conflict. And it'll affect your muscles, your bones, your joints, your ligaments, tendons, those kinds of things. And I believe this is why so many people get diagnosed with fibromyalgia. They have an ongoing self-devaluation conflict, whether they're doing it to themselves, like really bad self-esteem, self-confidence, you're constantly cutting yourself down, there's self-devaluation, or you're experiencing it from someone else. You're being abused by friends or family or your partner or whatever. So long as you're in the conflict stage, like you're still being abused, you're still abusing yourself, it's going to create this very long conflict phase. So your body's in a constant state of being broken down, like your muscles, bones, joints, ligaments, when a self-devaluation conflict happens, instead of the cell proliferation, which means growth, it'll break it down, like what you were saying with exercise. It breaks down the muscle tissue so that it can rebuild and be stronger. Well, when you're in an abusive relationship and you have this very long conflict phase, and you have lots of body pain like fibromyalgia, you're not able to complete the healing process because you're still experiencing the conflict. So I'll use myself as an example again. And in the early years of my relationship with my current husband, there was a lot of addiction and abuse, both of us. And I started getting a lot of body pain. And it got to the point where it was completely affecting my life. Like I couldn't function. And as we were growing in our relationship and the abuse was stopping, I still had this body pain. And it got so severe, which I believe was the healing phase, the phase where you have the epileptoid crisis. The pain got so severe that I sought medical intervention, and then I was put on pharmaceuticals, and it interrupted the healing process, right? So, my pain was temporarily relieved and I was able to function and everything, but that healing process still needed to happen. And I believe over the last 6 months with my yoga practice, having the body pain that is coming up for me, I think it's the finishing of that healing process from that particular conflict in the beginning of our relationship. So, you can take this information and you can look over your life and see where you've had these conflicts, either large or small, and then look at the year after and see what happened. Did you get sick? Like, you know what I mean?
I'm having a total like realization. I mean, I've talked about both Emmy and I have struggled with, I think we can say we've both been in narcissistic relationships. I didn't know what a boundary was until I went through trauma therapy. Like I just had no idea, and when you are going through one abusive relationship, you are also in like a survival mechanism. And after my last narcissistically abusive, where I almost died, I went into trauma therapy. And a few years after that, my arthritis got really bad. Like I was in my mid 30s and my alarm would go off at 3:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning for me to go teach. And I would have a hard time getting out of bed. Like I was like an 80-year-old woman. And Emmy, you're right. I went to doctor and got like high levels of medicine to help me so I could teach because and I remember like getting so upset because my body was like falling apart at 34, 35 years old. And it was when lockdown happened and Shala lost the program because the business shut down and I didn't go get a refill of medicine I actually started to, I guess, process from that because I haven't had a flare up in a really long time now. But holy shit, Emmy, that just hit me.
Mhm.
That yeah, I had and so what is fibromyalgia? What is arthritis? What is lupus? These are all and others. These are all considered what? Autoimmune disorders. So
Mhm.
what does science say an autoimmune disorder is? It says that it is a disorder where your immune system is attacking itself. Now, what Emmy was just saying about being in a conflict where you're in a constantly abusive state or low self esteem, what's happening? You're being attacked. And so when the body goes through the healing process, kind of like a domino effect, right? Like the first domino falls and it takes a while to get to this domino down here to fall. The body is like purging out that attack of its own self. If that does that make sense? Like,
Mhm.
and I know, like, depending on your dosha too is gonna shape your perception as well, your energetic dosha. So for me, and Emmy's very Vata, I'm very Vata. So of course that plays out a lot of times in autoimmune disorders because that's a Vata energetic perception. So oh my God, Emmy, that just hit me. Like that's why. And I was sitting there thinking for many years, why did my arthritis get so bad then? Like why was it not bad when I was in the thick of trauma therapy? Why was it not bad when I was getting abused? Why was it a couple years later when I was in a healthy relationship that
Mhm.
it got bad? It was supposed to. It was because that's when it was safe for the body to heal.
Yes, that's when you were safe. You were in a safe environment with safe people, and your body's like, okay, I can finish this process now.
And then I was the dumbass that stopped it.
Well, you didn't know. You're not a dumbass. You just didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, I took medication
I
for
think we've
fibromyalgia.
course corrected now, but man, that could have been a lot faster if we had just,
Uh-huh.
guys, think about that. Like, how quickly could have we all recovered from stuff if we
Uh-huh.
actually knew
You
that,
can
oh, this
walk
was
through,
supposed
but
to
you'll be
happen?
on TV. You can walk through. My kids. So I have one, honey, you can walk through, but you'll be on my video. It's okay. Okay, so let me share the last biological law here. Let's see. Okay. So the fifth biological law is that disease is not an error. It is a biological program that was initiated in your brain at the moment of conflict shock. It's evolved over millions of years of evolution. I love this. The Spanish people that have adopted this, they call it La Medicina Sagrada, the sacred medicine. And it really is because, this teaches us the truth. And because we have concrete evidence and proof of all this that we can show it happens across the board, these are laws. These aren't theories. This is how your body works. And it's brilliant and it's beautiful. And it's just so amazing. Like, I will never again say, oh, I'm sick with a cold. Nope, I'm healing. I'm healing. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's why I want to say, like, when you feel yourself coming down with something, you should be the perception should be, oh, my body's now taking the opportunity to heal. And how I love that, the sacred medicine. Like, I'm thinking back when my arthritis got really bad and I was in a really, really healthy relationship, very loving relationship. And how beautiful is that? That my psyche, even though, things like complex post-traumatic stress disorder were still happening to me, I was still having some anxiety disorders, but how beautiful is that my psyche felt so safe, makes me kind of emotional.
Mm-hmm.
My partner, that I could actually take time. My body knew that I could put my body could be in a vulnerable, could allow itself to be in like, if you think about, if you're out a wild animal in nature, if you're that vulnerable, you become prey. But I was so safe that my body could allow itself to be that vulnerable in order to complete a healing process. How beautiful is that? Like, how beautiful is that? And it's interesting. I mean, I was sitting here thinking about so many cases I've heard just in my own little world here in Atlanta of, like, someone finding out their partner's been having an affair, and then like 6 months later they get cancer, and people are like, man, that sucks. She just got divorced and now poor thing's got cancer. Like, oh my god, if it wasn't for bad luck she would have no luck at all. But no, okay, that cancer was the scab of the pain that's being processed.
Mm-hmm.
How beautiful is that? Because human beings are resilient. We can heal it. And I'm sure German new medicine relates all with the chakra system, because that's the perception that, it's beautiful. It's amazing. It
Mm-hmm.
truly is amazing, truly. So yeah. Yeah. So Emmy, that's the five laws, right? There are
That's the
five, right?
five laws. Yeah.
That's amazing. I am going to actually look and see if there's anybody in Atlanta that's practicing German new medicine, like if there's any Western doctors who've adapted this, because that's what I think, like the new world, I don't want to say new world, the new earth, we'll say the new earth. And our healthcare, it's not gonna be healthcare, it's gonna be wellness care. And I think that it's gonna be a combination of profound Eastern knowledge, law, with the emergency side of Western medicine,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is, I mean, I've told this story before when I think it was when I broke my ankle. One time when I was in high school, I broke something and I had to go have an x-ray, and they saw on my leg that I had a scar on my leg where I had broken my leg before. And my mom and I were like, no. And the doctor was like, yeah, you have a scar, you broke your leg. And the doctor goes, oh, I know what happened. This happens all the time. Little kids will break their bones, their parents, they cry for a little bit and then they get up and they kind of limp around, but then they get better and the parents think they're fine, and they actually, their body just repaired the bone. And then the bone has a scar on it to show it's stronger now, and that the body is constantly in a state of trying to heal itself, trying to prepare. When you talk to me, Emmy, you said something on the phone to me about the running of the nose. And my nose has been running nonstop for like 3 years now on YouTube.
I
But
wonder, I wonder if there is some kind of minor conflict that's going on continuously with you that is causing this.
I know what it is. I absolutely know. So there's a yoga cult here in Atlanta. I don't think I've talked about this on YouTube before. There's a yoga cult. It meets all the definitions of a cult here in Atlanta, Georgia. And the cult leader, teaches Ashtanga yoga and teaches Mysore classes, but this cult leader is not an authorized Ashtanga teacher. And this cult leader have made the three of us who are authorized in the state of Georgia, two men, me, one woman, have made our lives living hell for like 10 years now. Like it never stops. It is like, I mean, they will post things on smear campaign. She's trying to take out all the authorized teachers. And she created a story. She stole people's stories to claim that she went to India one time, never went back. So and it really, for a very long time, was very heavy on all of our shoulders. Like there was a lot of shit that was happening, that, thank God, like all three of us have a lot of students. We have very, very successful shalas. But yeah, the smear campaigns, everything and it, so I think, and once my shala shut down, um, and I was on YouTube, that's when my nose started running. So I think that's what that was, because now I'm more removed from her shenanigans. Like she still does stuff. She still does stuff all the time, but I'm more removed from it. Now I'm dealing with other stuff on YouTube, like the same kind of narcissistic abuse. That's what cult leaders are. They're just psychotic narcissists, right?
Yeah.
And it did help that healing. Like when I met Kelly Teal from Nexium and I looked at her website and I was like, holy shit, every single marker of a cult fits this yoga studio that this woman runs. They're not allowed to come take workshops or intensive at any other studio. They're not, they're constantly trying to recruit and get people to leave and go over there. So I was like, holy shit. So yeah, that's been a lot. At one point during the situation, I remember like when people would tell me stuff, I'd be like, so what else do I need to learn about myself this person is saying? Like, what other stories has she told? That just not true, just completely. I mean, that's what cult leaders do. Like, look at Scientology. That's what they do all the time. They make stuff up about people so that that's just what cult leaders do, right? That's what narcissists do. So I think and now that I'm more removed from that in my own personal life, I think that's what's healing is that, yeah. So
Very
yeah, so
interesting.
lesson be learned, just because it's a yoga studio doesn't mean it's an actual yoga chala, right? Like you gotta trust your gut. So yeah, so I think that's what's been happening. So yeah. She's even tried, there was one of our students sent us a Reddit thread where she tried to make me out to be some crazy conspiracy theorist and try to dumb me down. And my boyfriend was like, well, yogis were the first ever conspiracy theorists, because they were like, something's not right, yo. like this world doesn't seem to be what people say it is. Let's figure out that's the whole point of the Yoga Sutras. The whole Yoga Sutras is that there is an illusion that you need to see through. And that's what conspiracy theorists are saying, that there is an illusion you need to see through. It's the same thing. So if she wants to call me a conspiracy theorist, that's great. I am one because I'm a yogi. I'm not a yogi. I'm a yoga student. I haven't reached that enlightenment yet to be a yogi, but I am a student of yoga. So therefore I do challenge the illusion. Therefore I do challenge, and I am looking for the truth through the illusion. So that's the definition of a yoga student, is someone looking for the truth through the illusion. That's also the definition of a conspiracy theorist, someone looking for the truth through the illusion. The two are exactly the same thing. So riddle me that, Batman.
You're right.
So and yeah, my classes pack out, my workshops always pass, like it's never affected, this type of stuff has never affected my business at all. So but I think just when you're degraded that much, when you are put, I mean the abuse from this cult got so bad before, this is long before I was on YouTube, before I was a public person, that when I first got authorized, I couldn't celebrate it. I didn't post it on social media or anything because I knew there was going to be retaliation. I knew there was going to be something was going to happen. Oh, and the funny thing is, Emmy, is that she steals things from our websites and puts it on hers. Like verbatim, like the way we describe things, she will copy and paste to her website. So, but anyway, that's a story for a whole totally different day. But yeah, I mean, we've actually there's so much evidence of slander, defamation that we have contacted. I think I told you about this. I mean, we have contacted attorneys before because it's just gotten so bad and it's so obviously I mean, it's textbook case of what slander and defamation is, but it's not, is it worth it going through the courts? Is it worth it when literally cults will always exist? They're always going to exist. Narcissists. What do you say, Emmy? Narcissists are just going to narcissist.
Yep, murderers are just going to murder. It's their job.
Liars are going to lie.
Liars are
Narcissists
gonna lie.
narcissists. Cult leaders are going to cult leader. Like, So yeah. Anyway, oh, and one thing she started doing, I have to say, is I laugh when I heard this. She's trying to intermarry her students. If that's not textbook cult, I don't know what is. Like, when you're getting your students to like marry each other, like that's what they do in Scientology, y'all. Like that's what they do in the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh
I'm totally hands off. Listen, if students want to date each other, that's great. That's cool. I mean, you guys are both obviously have a lot in common if you're both practicing Ashtanga yoga, but that is none of my business. Once I leave that classroom, once I leave that shala, I am no longer your teacher. I am just Bryce. So, anyway. But anyway, yeah, to make a long story short, I think that's why my nose has been running.
Very interesting.
So
yeah, I would be interested to go and look up Dr. Sell's videos and see if she's got anything on there about nasal sinus stuff and how to, because she's got all kinds of different videos on there about different parts of the body, different systems, and what causes the conflict, what part of the brain is affected, all this stuff. I'm gonna link her whole YouTube channel, but I'm also gonna link the playlist for the tutorials, because she's got all kinds of stuff on there. But there's a playlist of tutorials that will give you all of the basic information to help you learn this stuff. So yeah.
Chakra system, I think the nose is connected to the throat chakra, to the voice, which would make sense because when you're in the middle of being smeared and stories are being made up about you and you feel like you can't speak up, because if you've ever been up against a narcissist, you're never going to win with a narcissist. They're always going to do shady things to try to, and they have their flying monkeys, they have their gang of people that will do their dirty work for them. And I think that's what it is. It's the throat chakra. It's not being able, so that being able to speak and is that healing process, right? So yeah, so it makes sense. I mean, it all lines up. So I actually, and Emmy, will you send me all those links so I can put it on my video as well for people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I want to hear you guys down in the comment section below. Can you let us know your thoughts on this? Can we continue the conversation down in the comment section below and let us know if you're having any realizations about things that you've been through? How does this change your perception over your own body and your own life and your own psyche? I really want to hear. I'm sure Emmy, we want to hear from you guys as well. What's your opinion on this? And does this make as much sense to you as it makes to us, right? And maybe it makes sense to us, Emmy, because we've been working on shadow work for a long time individually, but I want to hear from our audience as well to see what you guys think. So anyway, you guys, I will also put all of Emmy's links down in my description box so you can make sure that you are subscribed to Emmy. She does so much cool stuff with the Reiki. We're going to be doing, I know I talked to Emmy, we're hopefully soon we'll be planning another Reiki course, a yoga and Reiki course during Mercury retrograde. We probably should not be throwing dates out at this point. We hear you, universe. We'll wait a little bit, but yeah, because I've had a lot of people ask when we're going to do our next course, and so we'll figure that out pretty soon, guys, for you guys. But also, yeah, make sure you're subscribed to Emmy. She does. I know we're filming this on Saturday. Twice a month you're doing online. Do you want to talk about that for a quick second, Emmy, about your Reiki
online? Yeah, so twice a month I've been doing group Reiki. I am putting it around or as close to the full moon and new moon in the month as possible, just for renewal and release. And I'll have different topics. And it's just a group gathering. I send Reiki and do a meditation for everyone as a group. It's free, anyone can join. If you'd like to donate, that'd be great, but it's not necessary. And yeah, so I usually put the dates on the videos that I upload, because I've been recording the Reiki meditation portion of those videos and putting it on my channel. So yeah,
Awesome.
and this will, I'll be doing this indefinitely.
Awesome. So I will put you guys usually if I usually when Emmy does these, I put the Zoom links on my community tab as well on my YouTube channel. So you can always just hop in for that as well. All right, girl. Well, I know you got to go do some resting before you do your Reiki. So thank you so much for sharing this today, Emmy. This is
You're
awesome.
welcome. Yeah, so awesome.
All right, you
All right,
guys. Once again, we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
bye.